The Deadlands were quiet that cycle. No storms. No drones. See, just the wind hissing through fractured solar fields and the brittle bones of long-dead machines. Nyssa was alone. Her silencer gear hummed low against her spine, tuned to field resonance. She was on patrol, logging edge readings for vault perimeter anomalies, which was standard protocol and usually a formality. But that day something changed. The alert blinked red once, faint, buried beneath static. Something moved. She followed the signal across cracked dirt and melted steel until she reached a shallow depression near the vault's seam line. At first she thought it was debris, just another dumped mod scrap or burnt-out drone husk. But then it breathed. Nyssa approached slowly. Kneeling, she brushed the dust from the figure curled in the dirt. Human? A child? The girl was barely conscious. Her skin flushed from atmospheric exposure, her clothes too clean for the outer sectors, and her fingers twitched with unknown input. Her eyes opened once, a vivid violet. Not natural, not modified, something else. Not fear, not confusion, just recognition. It was as if she knew Nyssa, as if she had seen her before. "CASSY," Nyssa said quietly, activating her neural link. Scan. No biometric match, no city registration, no known birth line. Where did she come from? No origin found. The signature reads non-native. The wind stirred, blowing dust across the girl's legs. She didn't react, she just watched. A thought came unbidden. You should report this. Terminate the anomaly, seal the breach. But her hand didn't move. Her weapon stayed holstered. Nyssa stared at the child for a long time. And for the first time in her silencer career, she felt hesitation. Not weakness, not sentiment, just a thread, one that might unravel the whole weave. She opened a secure line. New subject, no match, no origin. Requesting authorization for silent placement. There was a long pause, then static, then silence. Nyssa terminated the link before Central responded. She gathered the girl in her arms, light as smoke, and carried her toward the city edge. She wouldn't report this. She wouldn't register her. She'd place her with a controlled foster line, monitor her, watch her grow, not because she trusted her, but because she wanted to see what the vault would do. And the vault did nothing for 12 years. Until now, some have entered the veil, none have returned. Theory suggests it's where timelines erode into entropy, a non-space between realities. Near its edge, the vault flares when something vanishes, as if tracking loss. Maybe the veil is a seam in a dying timeline. Touching it unspools your atoms into the void, not death, but erasure. Those who vanished into the wall were consumed, their existence erased, and Lorraine could never confirm this. The sky above Lorraine was a bruise that never healed, swollen, violet, and crawling with static. Artificial suns flickered behind the smog, casting fractured, pixelated light that never reached the city's bones. Liana stood on the edge of her crumbling balcony, her boots grinding into rust-cracked concrete. The wind from the upper exhaust lanes kicked at her coat, as if it wanted her to fall. She didn't flinch. She never did. Beneath her, Lorraine sprawled in vertical sickness, towers stacked like rusted bones, each stitched with glitching advertisements and ghost code promises. The small city looked peaceful from this height. It lied well. Behind her, soft footsteps. "You're going to jump again, aren't you?" Soren's voice was low, close, and tired of this ritual, but here anyway. Liana didn't turn. "Not jump," she replied. "Walk." She could feel Soren's stare pressing into her shoulder like a question with too many answers. "You're insane," came the reply. Liana smiled, a half smile she knew Soren hated, just enough charm to twist a gut, just enough darkness to make someone wonder if she meant it. "That's what they keep telling me." Soren moved to stand beside her, pulling his coat tighter against the cold bleed radiating from the deflector grid overhead. The city's hum was fainter here, thinned by altitude and decay, but it never fully disappeared. Nothing ever really disappeared in Lorraine. Liana didn't look at him, but she could feel the tension, the caution, the fear. She was already packed, boots scuffed from past trespasses, gloves clipped to her belt, Neuralink keys flashing faintly beneath her collar. She looked exactly how she felt, built for places no one returned from. "You packed the neuro-dampeners this time, right?" Soren asked. "I'm not pulling you out of another Freymine swarm." Liana tapped her belt, the soft blue blink of confirmation. "Scout's honor. You were never a scout." "Exactly." That earned her a sharp look, followed by a sigh and then silence. They left that night, weaving through Sector B-17's forgotten service corridors, hollow arteries where the city had stopped pretending to care. Wires hung like rot, vents groaned like dying lungs. The old maintenance duct behind the retinal gate was still there, just like Liana said it would be. She ducked into the crawl space first, shouldering past cables, dust, and the breath of dying machines. The air tasted like heat-damaged circuits and old oil. She liked it. "Are you sure this still works?" Soren asked from behind, his voice muffled by his sleeve filter. Liana smirked and glanced over her shoulder. Only one way to find out. She tapped her wrist key at the edge, where the city's security field shimmered with fractured static. The shimmer folded inward, just wide enough for them to pass through. On the other side, there was nothing. No neon lights, no server hum, no sound, just dry black dirt and a wind that didn't belong to any atmosphere Liana remembered breathing. "This is the world's end," Soren whispered behind her. Liana stepped forward. "No," she said. "This is the part they don't want us to see." They crossed the threshold together, no alarms, no drones, just the kind of silence that had teeth. Liana kept walking. She didn't look back, she didn't have to. She knew Soren would follow, he always did. Beyond the deflector grid, the world had no color. Just dust, endless ash sweeping across the dead earth. Wind slithered through shattered solar fields and over soil where nothing green had grown in generations. Old war mechs lay like buried titans, half submerged and still flickering with corrupted warning lights that meant nothing anymore. Soren didn't speak. Not for the first hour. He had too many questions to count, but Liana looked like she was somewhere else entirely, as if this wasteland whispered lullabies only she could hear. So Soren stayed quiet, not wanting to break the moment or remind Liana that this wasn't peace. It was ruin. "We're getting close," Liana called, not turning around. "Signals spiking." "To what?" Soren asked, squinting into the wind. Liana's grin was brief and sharp. "Answers?" They passed through a graveyard of steel trees, satellite scaffolds twisted into strange branching towers. The wind threaded through the wreckage, making the metal groan like dying gods. Soren stayed close. His sleeve filter buzzed softly. The air tasted wrong. Worse than Lorraine's decay, this was older, sterile, as if it had been sanitized by something that didn't understand breath. They stopped beside the fractured base of a weather tower. It was warm, not sun-warm. There was no real sun out here anymore, but it was active. Something had moved through this place recently, watched and left. "There," Liana said, pointing ahead. Soren followed her gaze. A shape protruded from the dust, seamless and still. Half buried in white ash was a dome, perfect and untouched. It didn't reflect the sky or them. Its surface swallowed light as if it had never belonged to this reality. Soren's breath caught, and his body tensed with a primal wrongness he had only ever felt during failed neural link drills. Something in him remembered this thing before her mind did. "Liana, wait." His voice was small, lost in the wind. What if this thing sealed for a reason? Liana didn't hesitate. Then that's even more reason to open it. She knelt and pressed her palm flat against the dome's surface. The reaction was instant. A low vibration hummed through the air like a buried song. Then, light. Veins of gold ignited across the dome's skin, quicksilver flowing through invisible pathways. It didn't open, it breathed. And when it did, the air that poured out was warm, alive. "That's," Soren blinked, "that's not possible." A voice answered, but not with sound. It came directly into her mind, like a memory she had forgotten was hers. DNA recognized, Subject is inheritor of the vault. Access granted. Liana froze. For the first time since they left the city, she looked unsure. "They were waiting for me," she said softly. Something in her voice made Soren's chest twist stop. "Liana, stop." Soren stepped forward. "Whatever's inside, it's not worth losing you. Can't you see that?" Liana turned to him. Her eyes weren't cold, but they weren't where Soren needed them to be either. "You think I would bring anyone else out here?" she asked. "You're chasing something dangerous, and I trust you to keep me alive through it. That has to mean something." Soren didn't know what to say to that. It felt like both a promise and a farewell. Liana took his wrist. Her hand was warm and steady. Behind her, the dome pulsed like a heart, waiting. Soren hated how it felt like Liana had already begun to step away from him, even before her feet moved. Liana crossed the threshold. The dome didn't open, it took her. No sound, no flash, just silence, complete and perfect. Then she was gone. Soren stood frozen. Dust stung his face as the wind howled past. She hadn't told her. Not really. Not the truth he had carried for too long. He loved her, and now she was gone. Then the voice returned. "Come with me." Not Liana's, the vault's. And somehow, it sounded like it knew him too. Soren stepped forward and vanished into the light. She wasn't falling, but she wasn't flying either. Liana drifted in stillness, the world around her dissolving into shifting bands of light and memory. No air, no time, only motion and a sense of being seen. The vault held her gently, not like a prison, but more like a question, one waiting for an answer. Light curled around her limbs, like silk threads, calm and precise, as if it were mapping her, memorizing the pattern of her breath. It didn't hurt, but it didn't ask for permission either. Somewhere beside her, Soren floated, arms slightly spread, legs drifting behind him like a ghost unsure of his place in the story. His eyes were wide, stunned. He hadn't spoken since they arrived. The vault didn't just welcome them, it had recognized them. And now it was rewriting everything around them to fit a memory they hadn't yet lived. The walls began to reshape, smooth light giving way to liquid architecture, corridors blooming out of nothing. No doors, no tech, just space responding to thought. Liana reached out, and the corridor bent toward her like mist pulled by gravity. It understood her gesture. It wanted to be touched. "Welcome, inheritors," came the voice again. "The vault has awaited you." Liana didn't respond. She couldn't. Her throat was dry, even without air. Soren drifted closer. His fingertips grazed Liana's shoulder, an anchor in all the unreality. They weren't alone in here. They weren't themselves anymore either. Liana reached forward again. The space reacted instantly, walls parting, a map unfolding in midair. It hovered in the open space between them, formed from golden lines that pulsed with living light. She saw the old Lorraine, the outer sectors, and something deeper beneath them both, something vast, coiled, and forgotten, buried beneath the city's roots, like an idea left too long in the dark. She whispered it aloud, barely aware of her voice. "This isn't a storage system." Her hand moved and the light followed. "It's a living archive." Another wall peeled open beside the map, this one full of data she couldn't read. Symbols, ancient and wrong, spiraled into glyphs, older than the collapse. DNA structures, power grids, reactor schematics stamped with unrecognizable logos. "Liana Thornfield," the vault voice continued. "Descendant of the first architects, DNA lineage confirmed, legacy protocol initiated." Her heart stuttered. She clenched her fists, felt them somehow, though her body still felt like it was floating without weight. She didn't remember her family. She didn't have one. Just a chain of group homes and broken systems. Just a file that said ward, unstable, modified illegally, watch list level 2. And yet this place spoke her name like it was holy, like it meant something. Soren's voice pulled her back. "You okay?" Liana turned her head slightly. Soren looked fragile in the vault's golden light, real in a way the space wasn't. "I don't think I've ever been okay," she said softly. "But this..." This feels right. Ahead of them, another corridor unfurled. The vault was opening its heart now. Inside, rows of sealed pods floated in stasis. Some held small ecosystems, verdant, untouched. Others contained data cores or dormant AI modules. But some held people. Real DNA, uncorrupted. Sleepers, a Genesis engine. Liana drifted forward and reached for the nearest pod. Her hand hovered inches from the surface. It pulsed, matching her heartbeat. Behind her, Soren didn't move, but Liana could feel it. The fear radiating off her, not of the vault, but of her, because something was changing. Not a mutation, not infection, something more profound, like her skin remembered a shape it wasn't supposed to wear until now. Then, the vault's voice glitched. Unauthorized trace detected, perimeter breach, estimated contact 6 hours. Liana looked up, jaw tightening. They found us. Soren's voice was sharp, panicked. Liana shook her head. No, her eyes narrowed. They were already watching. The vault wasn't a sanctuary. It was a beacon, a test, a trap. And like a good little inheritor, she'd triggered it. The vault pulsed around them, not with heat, not with a warning, with invitation. Soren felt it like a shift in gravity, like something had leaned close and whispered in his blood. Liana hadn't moved since the alert. She stood near the pod, still glowing to her pulse, her eyes narrowed and her jaw tight. But her expression had changed, drifted from certainty to something else. The light around them shimmered and stuttered. Then it folded. Not a collapse, no sound, no violence, just a fold, a quiet twist in space. And the vault unmade and remade itself, presenting Soren with an alternate reality, a vision just for him. Soren blinked. He stood in the sunlight, real sunlight, not artificial, not filtered through smog or deflector haze. The grass beneath his feet was soft and cool. The wind brushed his face like breath. The sky was blue, not corrupted, not pulsing with static veins, just blue. He turned in place. Lorraine was gone. In its place were towers grown from silver and living stone, wrapped in vertical gardens. No grime, no rot, no grid barriers humming like invisible threats. Everything was clean, alive, peaceful. And then he saw himself across the plaza, kneeling in a garden, laughing. A child laughed with him. A girl, maybe 4 years old, chased floating blossoms that drifted in the wind. The other version of him smiled widely, relaxed, whole, untouched. Soren felt something inside him crack open. He didn't recognize that version of himself, but he also couldn't look away. The woman standing nearby, tall, kind-eyed, her hand resting on Soren's shoulder like they belonged together. It was not Liana. While Soren contemplated a vision made just for him, Liana was simultaneously presented with a vision of what seemed to be another reality. She watched from across the courtyard, from behind a pillar of curved glass and flowering moss. She didn't exist here, not in the building's index, not in the databanks pulsing faintly above. No trace, no presence. That absence, it hurt more than any rejection the city had ever given her. Because in this world, Soren smiled, and Liana wasn't the reason for it. The vault voice in echoed thought. Timeline fragment rendered, collapse prevented, world preserved. Subject Liana Thornfield, non-viable. Subject Soren Firebrand, reformed. Emotional imprint complete. The air flickered. A warning tone trembled beneath his thoughts. He took one step forward, then froze. The other him looked up. Their eyes almost met. Almost. But something in the vault intervened. The illusion cracked like a sheet of ice under pressure. He stumbled back, gasping as the world around him shattered, light peeling away like false skin, ending both visions, until all that remained was darkness. They dropped to the floor, together. Back into the archive's breathing chamber. The light dimmed. Walls went still. Soren sat hard against the cold floor, his breath ragged and heart racing. Liana crouched beside him, one hand hovering like she didn't know if she could touch him. Neither spoke. "That was a world without me," Liana said. Her voice was calm, almost too calm. Soren nodded. "And you were happy in it," Liana added, not accusing, just stating. "It didn't feel like me," Soren whispered, "but it was." Liana stood, her fists clenched at her sides. That's the cost of peace. The cost of a reality where the misery around us never happens. Soren swallowed. "And the alternative?" Liana didn't answer. The vault did. Decision pending. Probability spike. Silencer class presence approaching. Timeline divergence threshold imminent. The vault sat in the deadlands like a wound too clean to scar. Nyssa stood just beyond its perimeter, one boot pressed into black earth, one hand resting on the grip of her rail knife. No guards, no defense towers, just silence and light. The dome shimmered in soft gold, veins of circuitry still glowing faintly from where it had opened itself. It looked ancient, it looked alive, and it remembered her, not as a welcome. "Biosignature, Nyssa Frostbane," came the voice in her neural link. Vault recognition. Denied. Of course it was. Of course they built it to reject her. She stepped forward. The pressure hit her instantly. Not physical, not at first. It felt more like walking into a memory that didn't want to be remembered. The ground vibrated beneath her feet. The sky stuttered, and a low pulse rippled outward from the dome's surface, like the vault was trying to erase her with resonance alone. "Unauthorized entry. I'm not here to be contained," Nyssa muttered. Her coat flared open as the defense systems on her belt activated. Neural dampeners sinking, pulse blockers harging. She pressed through the static field. The vault fought her. Waves of heatless force slammed into her chest, shoulders, and spine. Flash images stabbed through her optic feed. Liana standing atop a burning city. Soren alone in the dark, screaming her name. A version of herself, collapsed and broken, rail knife still in her hand. They weren't visions, they were warnings. In the vault interior, Liana felt it the moment Nyssa breached, a pressure like a fault line shifting beneath her ribs. The vault trembled, not in fear, but in confusion. It couldn't decide how to defend itself. "She's here," Liana said. Her voice was steady, but her pulse was climbing. Soren turned sharply toward the corridor. "What do we do?" "I don't know yet." The vault's light flickered, then dimmed, and then Nyssa stepped through the breach. She emerged like a silhouette cut from a sharper world. Armor matte black, cloak torn at the edges from atmospheric pressure, eyes alive with code-fed targeting data. The walls of the vault retracted around her, retreating in fear. And Liana didn't move. Nyssa looked at her, not like a hunter, not like an enemy, but like someone who had carried a secret for too long and was now standing in the ruin it had created. "You survived," she said softly. Liana's jaw clenched. "You sound surprised." "I'm not. I'm disappointed." Behind her, Soren tensed and the vault held its breath. Tri-signature convergence. Unstable. Event thread splitting. Reality fork potential escalating. "You don't understand what this place is, Liana." Nyssa's voice was calm, too precise. "It's not a throne. It's not a sanctuary. It's a fuse box. And you've lit every wire." "Then why did it open for me?" "Because it remembers your kind." Nyssa stepped closer. "You weren't born in this timeline. You were left in it." "What?" Soren whispered. "I found you," Nyssa said to Liana. "Years ago, near the vault's edge, no records, no bloodline match, and I didn't report you. I should have. You raised me into this system. You let me grow into this. I wanted to see what would happen." Nyssa's eyes gleamed. "Now I know." Liana answered back when Nyssa was already contemplating a possible moral victory. "That Dios not give you any rights over me or my decisions. In fact, you still see me as a test subject, don't you? Your little lab rat. You didn't even try to find out anything else about me, did you?" Vault alert, decision pending. Too many paradoxes in convergence. One must exit. Suddenly, the air in the vault turned cold, existentially cold. It was as if the universe had paused, waiting to see which piece no longer belonged. Nyssa stood inside the vault, staring at the girl she had allowed to live, the paradox she raised without ever touching, the problem she thought she could control. Liana stood in the center of the vault's core chamber, her heart hammering as if trying to break through her ribs. The light around her flickered with static gold, no longer steady or safe. Nyssa Frostbane stood just beyond the Genesis array, calm as silence, rail knife sheathed but ready, not attacking, not yet, just watching her like a question waiting to be answered. And behind Liana, Soren. His presence was gravity. His silence was heavier than the air. The vault pulsed once, then dimmed. Convergence stabilized. Tri-signature alignment, volatile. Dialogue protocol initiated. Of course, even the vault wanted to hear it said. Nyssa's voice broke the stillness, low, controlled. You were never supposed to wake this place. Liana didn't flinch. Then, why did no one ever tell me what I was? I did, once, indirectly. A ghost of something flickered across Nyssa's face. Regret, perhaps, or calculation. You just didn't know how to listen. Soren stepped forward, his voice shaking. She's not the problem. Nyssa's eyes slid to him, cold and measuring. No, she's just the catalyst. Liana laughed, short and sharp. So what now? You kill me, and the timeline stops unraveling? I don't need to kill you, but stop you, restrain you. That should be enough. Nyssa said softly, and the vault closes. The thread ends. The paradox is sealed. You don't know that. I know enough. I've watched 12 years of fractures ripple out from your presence. Systems glitching, memories failing, lives rewritten in ways no one noticed, except the vault, except me. Soren's voice rose, brittle. She didn't ask to be placed here. No, Nyssa said. I did that. Liana turned toward her slowly. You admit it? I found you in the dirt, Nyssa said. No records, no birth, just wrong. But you looked at me like you knew me. So I lied. I gave you to a system that would eat you, and you survived. Liana's fists curled. You raised me like a ghost. You watched me burn, and now you want to bury the ashes? Nyssa took a step closer, her boots making no sound on the vault floor. I want to stop what's coming? The vault flickered. Walls split briefly, showing flashes of timelines. 1,000 outcomes, all incomplete. Soren dying, Liana alone in the ruins, a city rewritten, a world on fire. Nyssa's face, younger and uncertain, watching from a forgotten corner. Liana's voice cut through it, quiet, deadly. And what if I'm not the real threat? Nyssa didn't blink. Then we're already too late. The silence wrapped around them like a shroud. Then Soren spoke, his voice soft but certain. What if the vault didn't choose Liana to destroy this timeline, but to heal it? Nyssa turned toward her slowly. The vault doesn't choose. It remembers. It reacts. Then maybe it's remembering wrong. The vault pulsed again, this time sharper. Decision pending. System strain at threshold. One element must be removed to restore balance. Liana stepped forward, her eyes locked on Nyssa. Then say it. Say what you came to do. Nyssa's expression remained unchanged, but her hand dropped to her belt. There was a pause before her voice softened to a death whisper. And I hoped it wouldn't be you. Soren moved between them. Liana's not the fracture, he stated. Nyssa's eyes narrowed. No? Soren shook her head. She's the key. The vault didn't wake for me. It didn't wake for you. He glanced back at Liana. It woke for her. Vault alert. Resolution required. Countdown initiated, 5 minutes until event lock. A choice hung between them, unspoken and unforgivable. You hoped it wouldn't be me? Funny, you had 12 years to hope differently. Liana's fingers brushed the vault's wall, and the gold circuitry flared, not in defense, but in recognition. You keep calling this a fracture, but what if it's a suture? What if the vault isn't trying to close, but to heal this timeline? Hope? Nyssa's voice barely shifted, but something in her eyes flickered, like the crack of a fault line, subtle yet seismic. I didn't come for hope, Liana. I came because the fracture you call truth is eating holes through the spine of time. She took another step forward, unblinking. You think I don't understand? I've walked through every ripple you've caused. I've seen people remember things that never happened, cities glitch, lovers forget each other, and parents mourn children who never lived. That's not truth. That's radiation. You think you're a story trying to be told, but you're a rewrite, scrawled over a dying page, and I'm the only one left who remembers the original. Original? Liana laughed. Sharp, fractured, like the edges of the vault's warnings. You mean the version of the world where I didn't exist? Where you didn't let me exist? The air around her hummed, static clinging to her skin like a second shadow. You talk about ripples, Nyssa, but you're the one who threw the stone. She spread her hands and the vault's light shuddered, timelines flickering in the space between them. A child's face in ruins, a name whispered into dead air, Nyssa herself, younger, hesitating at the edge of a decision. You saw the fractures. You chose not to stop them, not until now. Her voice dropped, raw at the edges. So tell me, did you wait this long because you thought you could fix me? Or because you were afraid to admit you made a mistake? The vault's pulse stuttered. A single phrase echoed, warped, directive unclear. Nyssa didn't move, didn't flinch, but the stillness was a mask, and for a moment, Liana could see its crack. Both. The word landed heavy, a confession, a curse. You were never supposed to matter. You were never supposed to hurt this much. Her hand drifted near her belt again, not for the weapon, but as if she needed the feel of steel to stay anchored. I didn't report you because I wanted to see what time would do to you, whether you'd unravel or adapt. But you didn't just survive, Liana, her voice quieted. You started changing the frame itself. She took one slow step forward through a flickering pulse of fractured light. And maybe I wanted that. Maybe some part of me needed the world to break because I was too tired to carry what it used to be. I made you a ghost in a house with no mirrors, and now you found one. Her voice turned low, dangerous again. And I don't know if I'm supposed to destroy it or let you fulfill your destiny. The air between them warped, not from the vault's interference, but from the weight of Nyssa's words. Liana's breath hitched just once before she bared her teeth in something too jagged to be a smile. Safe? She echoed the word like it was poison. You think I ever believed that? I grew up feeling the world itch around me, like a wound trying to close over something still inside. I didn't need mirrors, Nyssa, I just needed answers. She stepped forward into the fractured light until the glow etched her silhouette in golden shadow. But you're right about one thing, I did change the frame. A pulse of energy rippled up her arm as the vault's walls shuddered, timelines bleeding through. 1,000 variations of them, of this moment, of Nyssa's hand lifting not to strike, but to reach. You want to know what I see in the mirror? Liana whispered. A world that's better broken. Because of the old one, her voice cracked. It left children in the dirt. The vault's voice splintered between them. Paradox stability, collapsing, choose. Liana didn't look away. So leave me, or fight me, but don't you dare pretend this isn't what you saved me for. The word saved hadn't even finished reverberating when Nyssa exhaled, slow, sharp, a sound like metal cooling after it's been forged. She didn't draw her weapon. She didn't attack. She did something worse. She lowered her eyes. Just for a breath, just enough to let silence say what shame never could. You think I haven't paid for what I did? Her voice had no edge now, no calculation, just ruin. Every life you lit on fire cast its shadow across mine. She lifted her head slowly, her gaze piercing through the golden haze of the vault.
But you're wrong about one thing, Liana.
Her hand hovered near the rail knife again, not in a gesture of threat, but in remembrance. I didn't save you for this. Her voice was a quiet thunder. I saved you because, for one moment, I wanted the universe to suffer for giving you to me. A timekeeper, Liana. She let the word hang heavy as the timelines unraveled behind her. A creature engineered to anchor timelines, cast adrift in one that couldn't hold you. You had too much free will coded into your bones and too much fire in your mind. Her eyes darkened. You weren't supposed to exist. Not here, not now. She took a breath that sounded like surrender. But you looked at me like you belonged, and I was too tired, too curious to end it. What did you just say? Liana's voice cracked. Timekeeper. The word hit her like a psychic recoil, as if the vault flinched inside her veins. You mean I'm not a fracture? She stepped back, her breath faltering. I'm the frame. Her eyes widened, filling with something more profound than fear, recognition. The flicker of 1,000 versions of herself echoed through the vault's walls, standing, breaking, choosing. And you kept that from me? It wasn't an accusation, it was heartbreak. Would it have changed anything? Nyssa's voice was barely audible. You would have fought me either way. You always have. She stepped forward, closer now within reach. But if this is the end, Liana, then indulge me. Make your choice. Either way, only one of us will leave this vault. The vault screamed with light, timelines shredding around them, each collapsing like lungs that had never learned to breathe. By failing you, I achieve my selfish objective, which amuses me. She stepped forward, closer now, within reach. Her next words fell like a weapon gently laid on the ground. But if this is the end, Liana, then you choose. Her eyes flicked to the warping core behind her. Erase me in this timeline. Save yourself. Rebuild whatever world you want from the wreckage. And here the old commander begged, just remember, you will become me, eventually. The vault's light splintered, not in morning, but in morning. Gold bled to white, then to a hollow, hungry blue, as timelines collapsed like stars into silence. Liana didn't move, she didn't blink, but her hands, steady a moment ago, trembled. You think that's what this was about? A laugh tore from her throat, sharp as a sob. I didn't want your penance, Nyssa. I wanted you to see me, not the fracture, not the ghost, just me. The air between them warped, and for a heartbeat, the vault showed them something else. A memory or a lie. Nyssa's hand, not pushing her away, but pulling her close. It's a different choice, a different world. Liana's breath hitched. You don't get to ask me not to become you, she whispered. Because I won't, that's the whole point. Her fingers brushed the vault's core, and the light shifted, no longer rejecting, but rebuilding. But I'm not erasing you either. She looked up, eyes blazing. You want to pay? Then live and help me fix it. The vault's voice was a whisper now. Paradox realignment, possible. Convergence required. Nyssa stood in the wake of Liana's words, like someone hit by something quieter than a blade, but deeper than blood. The vault's light rippled through her, grieving, remembering, inviting. And still she hesitated. Her breath shook, not from fear, but recognition. She had wanted this, once. A world where she hadn't turned her back. A girl who hadn't grown into a weapon. A future unlit by fire. The memory the vault offered, Nyssa pulling Liana close instead of away, lingered behind her eyes like a phantom heartbeat. She hadn't made that choice, not then, but Liana just had, and that undid her. Nyssa's hand drifted up to touch the light where it had vanished, but instead she reached for the real thing, for the girl she failed, who now stood brighter than the fracture she was blamed for. She didn't fall to her knees. She stepped forward, slow, solemn, and placed her palm against Liana's over the core. To fix it, I must destroy you. Let's fix it. The vault ignited, not in fire, but in synthesis. Timeline shards collapsed and rethreaded in a cascade of starlit pulses. Nyssa's voice was almost lost in it, but it carried, barely a breath. See me then, not the monster, not the regret, just me. And for the first time since the vault opened, the system didn't resist, it aligned. Convergence accepted, dual source correction in progress, and Nyssa didn't let go. Not this time. The light didn't consume, it braided. Gold and blue and the electric hum of something new threaded through their joined hands. Liana's breath caught, not from pain, but from the sheer, terrifying weight of possibility. She didn't pull away. I see you, she said, quiet as the vault's sigh of relief. I always did. A beat. Then, sharper, a ghost of her old defiance. Even when I wished I didn't. The timelines stitched themselves back together, not into what they were, but into what they could be. Cities flickered into existence without scars, faces blurred, then sharpened, remembering, forgetting, choosing. Soren's voice cut through the light, half laughing, half raw. So does this mean we're saving the world or rewriting it? Liana didn't glance back. Her fingers tightened around Nyssa's. Yes. The vault's light trembled, neither welcoming nor resisting now, but waiting. It pulsed beneath Liana's fingertips, like a sleeping god shifting in its dreams. Nyssa's hand was still pressed against hers, their skin touching over the core's surface. Not a weapon, not a command, just presence. And then Liana pulled away. No anger, no fear, just a calm resolve sharper than any blade. She stepped past Nyssa, toward the vault's center. The Genesis core shimmered, its shape unfixed, like a wound in reality too old to close or too new to name. Nyssa turned sharply. Liana, but the girl didn't stop, didn't look back. She whispered, almost too quiet to hear, "You wanted me to choose." So I did. Then she stepped into the light. Liana touched one of the timelines on the wall and was gone in the blink of an eye, dissolving into nothingness right before Nyssa and Soren. She vanished. The vault sealed behind her, not violently, but like a breath being held, like time exhaling. The vault's final verdict was almost gentle. Correction complete, paradox resolved, and Nyssa was left alone. The silence that followed wasn't cold. It was final. She stood in the dim glow, her hand still half raised. For the first time in years, she didn't know what to reach for. CASSY floats around the room, alerting Nyssa through their neural link about the need to close the vault. It's time to take Soren and leave. However, Nyssa appears stuck in a vision, unresponsive and seemingly in a deep trance. It's as if her mind is overloaded with dozens of alternative timelines and their consequences. CASSY decides to override the communications, hoping to provoke a reaction from Nyssa, as this strategy has worked in the past. Initiates a recording for Lorraine Comm Center.
Oh, how poetic. One walks into myth. The other stays behind to mourn a mistake they both made. Timeline fracture, technically unresolved. Core memory, full of holes, delicious ones. They always think they're fixing something, holding the universe together with declarations and trembling hands. There was a brief pause, a smile hiding in static, as if truth ever needed them. Energy collapses into matter. Matter forgets how to hold itself. Memory distorts. And at the end of all things, when every possibility has been run through the shredder of causality, you know what's left? A low crackle, like laughter made of dying stars. Static